Welcome to the Real Estate Way to Wealth and Freedom podcast with Jacob Ayers, providing actionable content to help you along your journey to financial freedom through real estate investing. As the premier asset class, real estate has helped ordinary people just like you amass fortunes. The benefits of passive income from real estate investing will allow you to live a life you want. And now your host, entrepreneur, real estate investor, and apartment deal syndicator, Jacob Ayers.
Hi, and welcome to the Real Estate Way to Wealth and Freedom podcast, episode 140. Hi, I'm your host, Jacob Ayers, and you are listening to Friday Fundamentals. Well, hey, thank you so much for joining in to this week's episode. I'm so glad you're here. Now, this is part 2 of a 4-part mini-series we have going with our guest, Jay Connor, who's going to be helping us deliver the Friday Fundamental today. So really excited to have him on. Now, we're going to be discussing using other people's money to grow and scale your real estate portfolio, specifically private money, how to use it, how to find it. So I'm really excited to jump into this content. But before we get started, I want to invite you to join me at Jay's live event October 10th, 11th, and 12th in Atlantic Beach, North Carolina for a 3-day conference where I'm going to be there speaking. So I'd love to meet you there. If you'd like to join me out there, you can pick up tickets at www.jacobayers.com/event for special pricing. $97 for tickets out there, so very affordable, and I'm looking forward to networking, socializing, and learning right next to you. Well, without further ado, let's jump into this week's episode. Hi, and welcome to the Real Estate Way to Wealth and Freedom podcast. You're listening to Friday Fundamentals. I'm your host, Jacob Ayers, and once again, we have our guest, Jay Connor, joining me for this week's Friday Fundamentals. This is part 2 of a 4-part series. I'm excited to have Jay on. We got some great information. So, hey, Jay, thanks so much for coming on the show today.
Absolutely, Jacob. Thanks for having me back, and I'm loving doing the series with you.
Oh, it's going to be fun. So today, Jay, what are we talking about? And can you tell the audience members what to expect?
Sure, absolutely. So we started out last week talking about how we find foreclosures before other real estate investors even know they exist. And today we are talking about where to get the money now. In other words, how to get funding for your real estate deals regardless of your credit, regardless of your income, regardless of your experience in real estate investing. It's all about getting the money, unlimited funding for your deals, and how to get it easily, and how to get it quickly, how to never miss out on a deal because you did not have the money.
I love it, Jay. Well, obviously we can't break all of that down in just one short podcast. You are good, but not that good. So you're going to have to, dive into this at your upcoming live event where you're going to break this down and really pull back the curtains on it. So that live event is October 10th, 11th, 12th. We're going to learn more about that. Hey, I'd really love to meet everyone out there at Jay's live event. If you want to meet me, come out to North Carolina to Jay's live event. If you want to find tickets, you can find them at www.jacobayers.com/event. I'd love to see you out there. But Jay, tell us a little bit about this Where to Get the Money Now program you've got, and where do audience members find the money? Because that's a pretty important thing, Jay. It takes money to buy real estate. No matter what, at the end of the day, if you're going to use your own money, you're eventually going to run out. I've found that. I've started using other people's money to grow my portfolio. So tell us how and why to do that.
Absolutely. So, actually how I started using private money to fund my deals. And by the way, let's be clear with everyone. We're not talking about hard money. We're not talking about doing business with brokers. We're talking about actually doing business with individuals. A private lender truly is an individual just like you, just like me, and doing business with them. So there's no middle person involved. And so, I know everybody has had more than one blessing in disguise come along in their life. Well, this was a huge blessing in disguise. Carol Joy, my wife, and I, we've been doing the business for 15 years here in Eastern North Carolina. And, I started out the first 6 years using the local bank's money to fund my deals. And so, I mean, back then up until 2008, 2009, I mean, if you could fog a mirror, you could get the money, right? In fact, I mean, I'm telling you, Jacob, I mean, I went to the local bank, and when I started, I got a $250,000 unsecured line of credit to go out and flip houses. Well, $250,000 is not a lot of money, but I mean, I could do 2 deals, here locally at the time with that money. So I called up my banker. His name was Steve. The operative word being was. Steve was. And so I call up Steve, and I'd had this type of conversation with Steve many times for the first 6 years. Told Steve I had 2 deals under contract. They represented over $100,000 in profit. And I told him I wanted to close, in about 30 days, and told him where they were located. And so Steve went dead silent on me, Jacob, which is never a good sign, right?
No, not at all.
And so Steve cleared his throat. And he says, Jay, I'm sorry, but the bank has collapsed your line of credit. So my first thought was, I sure wish I had known that before I went and put earnest money on like 2 houses, right? And secondly, my next thought was, what am I going to do?
Yeah, now what, right?
So my definition of coincidence is God's way of staying anonymous. And so in less than 2 weeks, I was introduced to this wonderful world of private money, and I've never missed out on a deal since then. Now, at the upcoming live event, Jacob, and I'm so excited about that you're going to be there, and your listeners are going to be able to meet you in person, and we're going to be presenting together some sessions. Excited about all that. I'll be able to dive really deep into the private money and how we do it. But at least here on this show, we'll be able to give everyone, an overview as to how it works. So I called up my friend Jeff in Greensboro, North Carolina. I told him what had happened. I said, Jeff, what am I going to do? He said, well, Jay, welcome to the club. I got cut off from the bank too. And so anyway, he told me about private money, and I dug deep into it, man. And I mean, I had a lot of motivation. I had these 2 deals under contract that are getting ready to just fly out the window, right? And we know what motivates us more, hope of gain or fear of loss. Yes.
Oh, right. Absolutely.
Fear of loss. So I dug deep, and I put together a system, a 5-step system as to how I could raise and attract money. And you know what? Since that day, Jacob, I have never asked anybody for money. I've not asked anybody for money. I have presented and shared with many people my private lending program. So I put together a program. That's one really cool thing about the world of private money, particularly when you're doing business in your warm market, people that you have some kind of relationship with. It's not a negotiation process. You share your program or my private lending program and just let them know about it. And you ask them to spread the word, etc. And so in less than 90 days of when I got cut off from the banks, Jacob, I attracted and raised $2,150,000 in private money. So you know what? My banker actually did me a huge favor by being cut off, because I mean, all the blessings that's come from it. I was and am able to do so many different deals. I mean, right now, I've got over 20 houses going on right now in some process. I've either just acquired them, or they're under renovation, or we just put them in the multiple listing service, or we're marketing them rent to own to my buyers list. And so I'm able to do so many more deals, and also as a result, Jacob, you and I wouldn't be having this conversation today. You and I wouldn't be having this event. You come into this event and us doing it together, to where I'm able to share so much detail about private money and funding, unless I had been cut off from the bank.
Yeah, absolutely, Jay.
And so it's just really interesting as to how, all this comes about. But there's two, and I know we can only give the 30,000 foot view of private money and et cetera. We'll have plenty of time at the live event to go in all kinds of details. But some of the big benefits on using private money, again, I said it's got nothing to do with your credit. The private lenders never pull your credit because this is a collateral loan. Okay, the whole decision is based on the collateral. All right, so nothing to do with your credit, nothing to do with your verification of income. All right, and just some quick few contrasts between hard money, because I'm sure you've got listeners that have borrowed hard money before, right?
Yeah. Jump into give us a real quick difference in hard money versus private money, because it's kind of a gray line, and maybe some people out there have it confused. So yeah, what's the difference, Jay?
Sure. So number one, the interest rate. The average interest rate from hard money lenders today is 14%.
Yeah, that's high.
Right. And then private money is 8%. Okay. Which is still higher than you would be charged at the local bank. Commercial rates right now are between 5 and 5.75%. Some are 6%. But you get to get unlimited money. I mean, there's no limit to how many deals you can do. All right, and you're controlling the program. So there's the interest rate. Secondly, points or origination fees. Okay, well, your average hard money lender, the average right now nationwide is 4 points. In other words, you borrow $100,000, you got to bring $4,000 to the table just in points. And by the way, just so we're clear with everybody, origination fees and points is nothing more than more interest rate if you just have to pay it up front instead of over the year.
Which is a terrible way to have to pay interest.
Exactly. There are no points in the world of private money. No points. Zero. What's next? Extension fees and lengths of the note. Well, a hard money lender, typically the term's going to be either 6 months or 12 months. Now, if you haven't cashed out within that period of time, they'll extend your note, but what do they want? More money.
Yeah, exactly.
Your hard money lender on average is going to charge 2 points to extend the note. If it's a 6-month deal, they may charge 2 points after 6 months and 2 more points. So only if it's 2 points in a year, you're already up to 20%. 20% in the first year with the hard money lender. There are no extension fees with the private lenders. They don't want the money back. They just want you to extend the note, and they keep earning money on their, principal loan amount to you. So right there, we're comparing in the first year, hard money, 20% on average. We're still at 8%, okay, with the private lender. What's more than that? And here's my favorite reason, Jacob, for using private money. And that is we receive multiple checks on every transaction, every deal that we do. So with the hard money lender, the average right now nationwide, Jacob, is when you buy the house, the average percentage that they will advance you for the purchase of the house, no matter how good the deal is 80% of purchase price. Some hard money lenders won't advance more than 65% of the purchase price that you as the real estate investor are paying. Well, who's got to come up with the rest of the money? Of course,
that's you.
We do, right?
Yeah.
Well, listen to this. In the world of hard money, on my lands, 100% of purchase price is funded. And in most cases, if you got to rehab it, 100% of the rehab cost as well. So if you buy a house, let's say the house has got an after repaired value of say $200,000. So I'd buy a lot of houses, Jacob, at 50% of the after repaired value. So let's say I buy it for $100,000 and I'm going to need to put $25,000 or $30,000 in rehab. I'll get the whole $130,000 at closing and come home with a $30,000 check, right? And so, of course, I'm not going to come home with a $30,000 check unless I'm going to be using that money or the majority of it for rehab. But right. I use that money for marketing costs, for carrying costs, utilities. And so here's the question. If the private lender is wanting or requiring monthly payments, which a lot of my private lenders do not. I mean, we pay a lot of our private lenders quarterly, semi-annual, and annually. So if I'm paying like semi-annual, whose money am I using to make their initial monthly payments? Their money. So I mean, you can't beat that, right? I mean, I get all my purchase price. I get rehab money if I'm going to need to rehab. And I'm using their money to make their monthly payments. Now, of course, I'm going to need to get that house either rehabbed and sold or cash flowing on rent to own because, that money is going to run out. But nonetheless, it helps the cash flow. I mean, it helps your cash flow tremendously. So those are some the biggest difference on the hard money versus private money.
Yeah, Jay, such great stuff there. And a couple things I want to unpack. At the beginning of the show, you mentioned, well, I got cut off from the bank, right? And then I went back to the drawing board. And in 90 days, I'd raised over $2 million without ever asking for a single dollar. And I think that's really important to highlight here for a couple of reasons. Lots of people have a fear of going out and asking for money to invest, right? Going and asking friends, family, coworkers, acquaintances, whoever it might be. A lot of fear behind going out and saying, hey, would you loan me $50,000? But Jay, the reason you're able to do that is because you're providing an opportunity to these investors. So they're not doing you simply a favor, Jay. It's a two-sided win-win scenario. And you've really built that around this whole program you've got. So kind of talk about the benefits of both the investor and the borrower here.
Oh, sure. So I just went over the benefits to us as the borrower.
Sure,
It's unlimited. We're able to do so many more deals because we're not limited to the number of deals that we can do. And so let's talk for a second then about what are the benefits to the lender, the private lender. Let me go back. Before I do that, let me take just a second and go back. Your listeners may be wondering, well, how in the world did I attract $2,150,000 in less than 90 days if I'm not asking anybody for money?
Yeah, how did you do that?
How in the world does that work? Well, I call it let the tools do the work. So in my process, in my system that I created to attract a lot of private money very quickly, the third step in the 5-step system is I hand out or I email out or these days text out a link to a 16-minute audio that I recorded years ago. I've now recorded this audio for over 1,000 of my students across the nation, and it's called Stress-Free Investing. It's only 16 minutes long, and the purpose of that audio is to give an overview of what private money is, but it does not spill the beans on what your program is. It doesn't say how much interest, what interest rate you're paying. It doesn't talk about how they can how they're protected. It doesn't go into details about how it is safe and secure. But it does raise these questions. So the purpose of this 16-minute audio is to get their greed glands swollen up in their neck, so they can't wait to hear the details of the private lending program. So that's how we get the word out so quickly, is by sending this audio out either in person and by email and by texting. Now, here's another way of how I attracted so much money, by not asking for money. So here's a quick little overview script. And at the live event, we'll go over multiple scripts and exactly how the process works. But here's an overview. My very first private lender that I had when I got cut off. So I was visiting with him after church. And here's basically what I said. Now I'm going to give just a short version. All right.
Okay.
The overview was, I said, and I'm just visiting with him one-on-one. I said, I know you know a lot of people. You've been in business, for years. You're very active in the Rotary Club. And so I have now opened up my real estate investing business by referral only. And it's, for people that I, know and trust. And so I'm now paying very high rates of return safely and securely to people that want to, come into and do business with me. And so since a lot of people, if you would just spread the word when you hear someone talking about they're not happy with their, CD rates at the bank or whatever, would you refer them to me and I can tell them about my program? Well, of course, you know what he said. He said, well, what kind of rates of return do you have in mind?
Yeah, Jay, tell me more about it. I'm interested now.
Exactly. And so I said, well, I said, as far as what I pay, would pretty much depend on the deal, but what sounds high to you? And he said, well, right now we're getting, and back then, 9.5 years ago, CDs were paying maybe 2.5%, 3%, something like that. And he said, well, we're getting, whatever it was, 2.5%, 3%. I said, what sounds high to you? He says, I don't know, maybe 5 or 6%. And I said, well, and again, this is the short version of the conversation. I said, I can't pay you 6%, but I can pay you 8%.
The
And,
light bulb's going off at this point.
yeah. And so by the end of the conversation, which only lasted about 10 minutes, he said, put me down for $250,000. So you see, I didn't ask him for money. I asked him just to spread the word as to what I was doing. So that's two different ways I did it very, very quickly. Asking people to spread the word for me and by sending out the audio. So anyway, I digressed, but I thought some of your listeners may be wondering, well, how in the world does that work?
I know it's great stuff. And so, Jay, you've got so many unique strategies for finding private money. And, obviously we can't unpack all those here on this podcast, but in your upcoming live event, you're going to really unpack all those, let the audience members know where, why, how to find private money, how to structure deals, how to pitch these, potential investors, how to, market yourself. So tell us a little bit about what the potential audience members could find when they go to this live event.
Oh, my lands. Well, there's not another live event like it. And now there's one more reason there's not another event like it. It's because Jacob Ayers is going to be there, and we're going to present together. So, yes, it's October 10, 11, and 12, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, right here in Atlantic Beach, North Carolina. The reason it's here, and yes, people are going to need to get on an airplane and fly here. And so anyway, the website, you want to go ahead and give that out, Jacob, and then I'll give the overview of the live event.
Sure. Yeah. So, if you want to go out and check out this event, you can find tickets at www.jacobayers.com/event. Jay's got a special deal put together there. Only $97 for this event. Jay, I'm still kind of confused as why it's so cheap. 3 days. I mean, we're going to spend more than that on dinner, on one night, after the event. So, absurdly cheap there, but yeah, it's you've priced it really well for audience members to be able to go out there, and it's just hard to say no to. So yeah, tell us a little bit about what people can expect once they get there.
Sure. And by the way, that website that you just gave out of that URL, that's the only place that they can go and get this event for $97. This event is valued at $2,997. So your listeners will want to go to that website to register. So here's an overview of the 3 days. So I'm going to teach all 4 pillars of my business to where people can go back home and model and duplicate the business. So the first pillar is how we find deals before other real estate investors even know they exist. Now, last week on last show, I gave the overview of our foreclosure system, how we find those deals before other real estate investors, but we're really going to dive deep at the live event and really get into the details. And I'm going to be teaching as well the other ways that we find deals before other real estate investors even know they exist. So we get ahead of the competition. The second pillar is we're going to dive even deeper, way deeper than we were able to today on funding your deals with private money. As a matter of fact, I'm going to have private lenders at the event that the attendees will be able to network with as well. The third thing that I'm going to teach is our selling system, how we can sell any house in 3 days or less. And then fourthly, we're going to teach automation. How do we automate the business? Now, on the first day in the afternoon, we're going to go on the bus tour. And this bus tour is very different than any other bus tour. Most bus tours, you go and look at houses that are in the multiple listing service. This bus tour, we're actually going out and looking at mine and Carol Joy's houses that we've either just acquired and we haven't started renovations, or we'll look at some that are under renovation. We'll also look at some we've just finished and staged and just put on the market. And so you'll be able to see the whole process. On the bus tour, I'll have my team members, my contractors, my crew leaders my interior designer, people that we do business with, and how I'm able to automate the business and actually just work in the business less than 10 hours per week. That's the bus tour. Again, we've got the private lenders to network with. And I've got mover. This event, Jacob, as you know, this is for beginners and it's also for seasoned real estate investors. All the above, because I've got information at the event that the attendees will learn that is not taught anywhere else. And well, as I said, Jacob Ayers himself is going to be there.
Yeah, that's right, Jay. So, after episode 125 last, Jay, you mentioned this live event, and I really was interested in attending myself. I find events, conferences, resources, things like this to be so valuable. You get to go there, you get to network with other like-minded real estate investors. On top of it, it's built around an education piece where you're teaching your systems and, teaching how to go out and find these deals, manage these deals, exit these deals. So much great content. And hey, I just thought of something when you're talking about this live event. I find it really unique that, this isn't, some flashy fireworks, show. This is Jay Connor's live event. No brilliant marketing strategy, no cute, clever name to loop you in. This is just raw, actionable content, 3 days, action packed. It's going to be a great time. I'm looking forward to it. For the audience members that haven't met me yet, I'd love to meet you. So, come out there, find a flight, get out there. Let's meet, let's connect, let's talk all day. Let's listen to Jay, tell us about all of these brilliant strategies. Jay, man, I'm just really looking forward to it.
Man, I am too, Jacob. And as I said, it's just a few short weeks away. And so everybody, get on over to the website that Jacob gave out. And based on something you just said, Jacob, about this is not got some flash and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
The only thing I teach is what I have already proven to work. So I'm not teaching theory. I'm not regurgitating something I read in a book somewhere. I only teach what I have been doing, I am doing, and what is proven to work. So yes, it's going to be takeaway, actionable items to go back home and, for your listeners and attendees to implement. It's going to be the real deal as we're doing the business today. And, I'll be going over on the third day a lot of ways that we find deals other than the foreclosure system. And so I've got some very, very unique ways that I find deals. Most of the deals that I do are not listed in the multiple listing service. Most of the deals I buy are from for sale by owners. And most of these people don't even have a for sale by owners sign in their yard. So we use some very creative marketing. I actually got marketing that I use to where I have access to people that are probably motivated to sell. And my team gets their mailing address, gets their email address, gets their phone numbers. So you and your team can actually make outbound calls and not have to rely on the direct mail. I'll actually be plugging the attendees into the virtual assistant company and person that I've been using for the past 9 years. And these VAs only bill us by the minute. So I'll be teaching details about virtual assistants and how almost anyone can afford help in your business to really scale your business and get to the next level.
Yeah, I absolutely love it, Jay. Well, a couple things I want to unpack here really quickly. Jay, I'm actually surprised you have time in your day and in your week and your month to put on this live event, because this isn't what you do primarily. You have a real estate investing business there locally where you buy deals, where you've built a business, and that's what you do day to day. So, you're not just some guru who just teaches classes every weekend. This isn't your main gig. You're a real estate investor, and you're going to show people how you actually do deals, show people your properties, show people things in the works. So I love it. I'm looking forward to it.
Awesome. So that URL one more time, Jacob.
Yeah, it's www.jacobayers.com/live event. Go there, pick up tickets, $97 for the 3-day course, or the 3-day event that is. So yeah, looking forward to seeing everybody out there. Jay, it's been a pleasure having you help me out on this Friday Fundamentals. This is part 2 of a 4-part series. Next week, what can we expect?
Absolutely. So next week, I'll be able to give the overview of our selling system. It's called How to Sell Any Home in 72 Hours or Less. And so we'll give the overview on next week's show.
All right. Love it. Well, Jay, thanks so much for coming on the show today. We'll talk next week.
All right. Thank you, Jacob. I appreciate it. And we'll see you next week.
You bet. Thanks, Jay.
Bye-bye.
All right, that wraps up this week's episode of Friday Fundamentals. Well, I really appreciate Jay Connor coming on and helping deliver this great content. Unfortunately, there's just only so much we can get into in a short podcast like this, but if you're interested in learning more, Jay's live event, October 10th, 11th, and 12th is a great place to do so. Like I've said, I'm going to be out there helping deliver content on stage with Jay, so I'm really looking forward to meeting you out there, networking, meeting you in person, socializing, and learning right next to you. So if you'd like to meet me out there, you can pick up tickets at www.jacobayers.com/event. Well, till next week, engineer the lifestyle you want.
You've been listening to the Real Estate Way to Wealth and Freedom podcast, providing you actionable content to build your real estate empire. Nothing on this show should be considered specific, personal, or professional advice. Please consult an appropriate tax, legal, real estate, financial, or business professional for personal advice. The opinions of guests are their own. Information is not guaranteed. All investment strategies have a potential for profit or loss. The host is operating on behalf of the Real Estate Way to Wealth and Freedom, LLC, exclusively.